Pardcast. What is a pardcast?
Well, it's like a podcast.
Yeah.
But you get a pardon when it sucks.
Okay, all right, I am Gerry Job. This
is Tim Davenport.
Wow, that was pretty seamless. And this is our podcast, or what Tim referred to as our pardcast.
I think we should just refer to it as the Pardcast from now on.
Yeah, it's a pardcast.
Pardcast.
We're huge geeks, and so this is our outlet for giving our godlike reviews, opinions, and other sort of crazy concepts that we might have. A venue to escape from our minds. So, hi.
What he said, it's only more eloquent.
So every week we usually sit at a bar and do this over lunch, but we decided that we'd come to Tim's bar at the Davenport Cantina, Spaceport Cantina.
The Davin Spaceport Cantina.
There it is.
Yeah.
And do it here. So away we go. I want to admit something to Tim right now. Tim? I was watching Instagram video yesterday, and it was Todd McFarlane, who is the writer, creator of Spawn, one of the forefathers of Image Comics, and probably the best Spider-Man artist, one of the best Spider-Man comic artists of all time. And he was outside greeting his fans yesterday, and they were all wrapped around the block. So he was like going down one block, and they all had their Spawn 301 comic. They were shaking hands, and he was trying to get people to come down to the convention, and he's like, come on down, look at this, block ends here, and they're still lined up over there. We have an official blockbuster here, folks. It is an official blockbuster. And at that moment, I realized that up until that moment, I had no idea what the term blockbuster meant.
Yeah, I guess that means that up until this moment, I too had no idea what the term blockbuster meant. And by that I mean, no, I totally knew. You mean you didn't know, Gerry?
No.
You didn't know that that's what a blockbuster was?
I thought it was like my little moment of shame with you, but no. Yeah, I had
Well, here's to know what a blockbuster is. Yeah, well, thanks, Todd.
Thanks to Todd McFarlane. So if you didn't know what a blockbuster was before, or you thought it was just a video shop from the 90s, 2000s, or if you just thought it was just a Hollywood term for a big summer movie, that is the literal definition of blockbuster. It's something that they line up for beyond one block. Boom!
Yeah. Mind blown! Didn't know that.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, all my pop culture factoids floating around in the ether up here. Not one that was in there. Didn't know that.
And even with Blockbuster Video, I had no idea.
Yeah. But people weren't lined up around the block for Blockbuster, as it turns out. It was a little bit less, just 2 people less than was required for the Blockbuster at Blockbuster.
Yeah.
Definition of irony, I believe.
Right. Also, we should note that we think we're hilarious.
Oh, yeah. We will laugh shamelessly at our own shit, even when people don't think it's particularly funny, but that's okay, because that's what we do.
So if you hang out with us long enough, then perhaps you'll find us funny too. But not right now.
But we're okay if you don't.
So that was my cool thing to talk about. Tim, what did you want to talk about?
Well, okay, so in the realm of things nerd-related and pop culture-related that we didn't necessarily know... how about the fact that apparently, for those Star Wars nerds that are out there, because I know you're there, apparently Endor is not a planet, but it's a moon.
Yes.
That orbits the planet of Endor. So the phrase if you're Admiral Akbar, on the nearby forest moon of Endor.
I don't think anyone at home is Admiral Akbar.
Well, he did die, apparently, in the last movie, so he wouldn't be watching this podcast.
Right.
But apparently, Endor is not actually Endor. It is a moon that orbits the gaseous planet that is Endor.
How do you know that Endor is gaseous?
It eats a lot of cabbage. I read it on Wikipedia.
Okay, so let's break down what Akbar says.
All right.
Okay, so what is the line?
The line is orbiting the nearby forest moon of Endor.
Right.
Which means you could interpret that two ways. So it's okay. So you could interpret that as being.
I'll go one further. If you're not a Star Wars nerd or a geek like us, Endor is where the Ewoks live.
So there's that.
The Ewoks are in Endor.
And Ewoks are like a miniature version of Wookiees, which is why the name Ewok is kind of like the reverse of... Anyway, that's a whole other topic for another episode.
Right.
So,
So,
if you were to interpret it literally, the nearby forest moon of Endor, you would assume, the moon is called...
It's a forest moon.
It's a forest moon that is thereby named Endor.
And it's nearby.
And it's nearby. But nearby what? The Death Star, as it turns out,
right.
apparently. But the other way of interpreting it is, on the nearby forest moon of Endor, what they're saying that it is a moon that is a moon of Endor, and Endor is the planet.
Yeah, but you know what? He says the forest moon of Endor. He doesn't say the moon of the forest planet Endor.
The heart's what it wants, Gerry. I feel like... Okay, so here's the thing. What the whole reason this is even coming about, because I'm not going to lie.
Okay.
If this is true,
Yes.
if it's actually factual,
Okay.
from what I understand, what kicked this off is that the new trailer for Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker, we see footage of the Death Star
Yes.
crash landed and derelict on an oceanic planet which has trees in the far distance and various things. Mm-hmm. Which a lot of people, myself included, thought was just, it crash landed on Endor. Of course it crash landed there. That's where else would it be?
On the shores of Endor.
On the shores of Endor.
Like the album.
And/or Endor.
Right.
Like the shores of Endor. That's a Gordon Lightfoot album, isn't it?
It is. That's right.
The wreck of the Death Star 2.
That's it. I have that on. My parents used to play it as a kid all the time.
One of my favorite albums.
It was so good.
So, my understanding is that, or what I thought was watching the preview, that was what we were seeing, is that it was the wreck of the Death Star 2 on Endor. But Disney, being what they are, love releasing little tidbits. They say, no, that's actually a nearby orbiting moon.
Why are they all nearby?
well, they can only be so far, Gerry.
But it just seems like, it's like your neighbor. It's so convenient.
Well,
is every moon convenient?
Well, moons typically tend to be close too.
Yeah, but they're so nearby.
Well,
get a new phrase, Disney.
This is true. That's actually a very Star Wars thing. So everything's nearby.
Yeah, or far, far away.
Or very far, far away. There's no middle ground with these guys. Yeah, no, there's no there's no moon that is moderately like one tank of gas away from
a little beyond.
It's like there's a sign near every Star Wars planet or space station.
Right.
Gas up now.
Although it seemed like Tashi Station was a little bit of a journey because I wanted to go into Tashi Station to get some power converters. That seemed like it was going to be a bit of a journey.
Yeah. Well, he never quite got to it. No, he never quite. He was quite upset actually that he was inhibited from said journey, but it was a little far.
Right. So Endor. Not necessarily where the Ewoks are from. That could just be a moon of Endor.
Yeah. From my understanding, kids, take note, Endor is not actually the forest moon. Endor is the planet that forest moon orbits. I could be wrong. I don't know. All I know is I've been living a lie if it's true.
Yes.
For roughly 40 years, give or take.
Agreed.
All right. What else you got for me?
Scorsese.
Ah! Yeah. I don't know. So, okay, here's my take on it.
What are we talking about?
Okay, so for the kids at home, Martin Scorsese weighed in on the whole Marvel film thing, and his take on it is that Marvel films are not quote unquote cinema. Now, it's an interesting comment, and it's interesting. I don't know, and I don't want to speak for you, but I know for me, I'm a big Scorsese fan. There's a rack of movies you can't see necessarily on film back here, but in that rack, there's Casino, there's Goodfellas,
Weekend at Bernie's,
Weekend at Bernie's, yeah,
two.
like all the classics of modern cinema, all the cinemas. We've got all the cinemas here. Weekend at Bernie's 2 being like the benchmark. But so I'm a big Martin Scorsese fan. I love his movies, and so his comment was that Marvel movies are not cinema, and I actually personally I take exception. So I shouldn't say I take exception. Here's how I feel about it. I think that there's room for all. Not everything has to be an art house, auteur movie that is a. Not everything has to be this, like, it doesn't have to evoke emotion. Sometimes cinema can be popcorn, whatever. Like, he could take that comment and apply it to, I mean, since we've been talking about it already, Star Wars. The original Star Wars movie. But it's not like he said that about Star Wars when it came out, and it's like, well, this isn't cinema, this is just blockbuster fluff.
Did he really say blockbuster? Did he even know that it was busting the block?
Did he understand what blockbuster? You know, he didn't, I don't think.
No, I don't
Therefore, that's why he did not make that comment back in the day. So, yeah, you know, my thing is, I don't think that I understand his comments, but I don't agree with him. I don't agree.
Counterpoint. No, I don't really have a big counterpoint. But I will say that he said that it wasn't cinema. Yeah, that's okay. He says that they're more like theme parks or theme park attractions and rides. And I get that. I think that there was that line that it could be... Okay, well, let's just take a movie like Jaws. Is Jaws cinema or is it a ride? Because people went to go get scared on a massive level, and they got freaked out, and it was the first true blockbuster. But is it cinema? Yes, it's a benchmark movie. It's a Benchley movie.
Is it a Peter Bench?
It is a Peter Benchmarkley movie. So, where do you draw the line? Now, here's my counterpoint. I don't like the Black Panther and Wonder Woman and any other big-ass Marvel movie that's pretty damn good, that's a popcorn flick, suddenly because of the extra spaces that they have on the Best Picture list, have this gigantic push to just be a Best Picture just because.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Like, I think that these movies... I don't like that these movies are getting added to those lists. Like this should be up for a Best Picture thing, because they're not in the realm of Best Picture.
They're not.
Like, I'll be the first to admit, when I go to the theater these days, I typically will go to watch something that is a big spectacle and is a something that on a big screen is something that I will really enjoy. And so that's kind of my litmus test for what I go to the theater for. Because going to the theater these days, when I take my wife and we go together, it's a $60 endeavor, give or take, between tickets and popcorn and a $12 bag of Skittles. You know, like, so I, typically when I go to the theater, I go because I want to watch something that's a big screen endeavor. And it's unfortunate because it does take away from the films that are... There are great films that are auteur films, or however you want to categorize it, that I probably... personally, I should be going and watching more at the theater.
Sure.
But I totally agree with you on the fact that there are movies now that are big tentpole films that are getting all this recognition and should be getting. Oh, it should be best picture. It should be, like it's like best director, this and that, and it's like, I'm sorry, but no.
Well, that's what his point was today. He walked back his statements a little bit and said, they do connect people, and it is a movie that everyone goes and shares in, but he's afraid that that's going to take away from somebody like P.T. Anderson and people seeing his work.
Totally.
Right? But here's the other side of the coin. I'm pissed off right now because I can't go see Taika Waititi's new movie, Jojo Rabbit, in the movie theater in Kelowna because it's not here. It's out. This is the guy who did Thor Ragnarok. Right? Yeah. This is a great director.
Totally.
Right?
Hunt for the Wilder People.
Great
movie.
People.
Like, funny, phenomenal movie. Like, good.
What We Do in the Shadows.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, you got me.
Give me more.
So, had I seen those films before Thor Ragnarok, I would have loved them. But it was because of Thor Ragnarok that I was like, whoa, okay, this guy's got more that I haven't seen. I'm going to go check out his...
Yeah, no, I got to see what's in the hopper.
Right?
Totally.
Right? Yeah. And here's a guy, Scorsese, who's criticizing people for going and seeing Marvel films or whatever, or these big spectacle films in movie theaters. And his latest release is a Netflix release.
Yeah. I know, and that's kind of and for me, that was a little bit of the hypocrisy of what he was saying.
The only thing keeping movie theaters alive and in business and not going the way of a blockbuster video is big cinematic movies like Marvel.
Big cinematic movies.
Right?
By my own admission. Like, that's the stuff I'm going to watch.
Like Wonder Woman, like Black Panther, like Endgame, like Infinity War. I mean, the list goes on and on. That's the only thing keeping people going to movie theaters. They go because it's worth the price of admission.
Yeah.
It's worth the price of your damn $12 thing of Skittles to go to the movie theater to see that.
Well, and look, it's funny, and to your point, and this isn't to the Taika Waititis of the world where... Like they were making great movies and then had to take on a big blockbuster, big budget movie to kind of get their name out there and be known. But like a movie like Solo, right, that failed at the box office, and people are like, well, it failed because people had Star Wars fatigue and people were angry about The Last Jedi. Which is a whole other topic, which I'll get into another time. Hardcore Star Wars fan, I don't hate that movie, but that's another thing. Solo. People are like, wow, it's just Star Wars fatigue. Solo was released 2 weeks after Avengers Infinity War, and one week after Deadpool. Deadpool Uno. I'm going to say Uno. Fact checked us. If I win, whoever gets it right, I owe you a beer. If he wins Deadpool 2, he gets the beer. Or whatever. But either way, on week 3, in 1 month, when just the average nerd couple, which is basically myself and my wife, I'm sorry, but $120 into 2 blockbuster movies, if we go to the third one, we're over $200 in to our theater experience for 1 month.
I have 2 kids.
And we don't have kids. He does.
And they want to see, and I as a dad want to make sure that they see it on the weekend that it's out. Like, I'll see it on the Thursday night. I'll take them to either the Friday or the Saturday. Or I'll go on a date Friday night and see it again. And then I saw Thor Ragnarok 4 times in one weekend. I saw Rogue One every single day of its first week, just by coincidence of people wanting to see it with me seeing it by myself, me seeing it with my girl, me seeing it with my kids. My brother rented out a theater in his hometown for underprivileged families so everyone could come, so I went to that. So it just so happened I saw Rogue One every day for the first week that it was out. Now, had I had to shell that out now to go see something, it's a lot of money.
It's not viable. So when people were like, oh, well, Solo was a shitty movie. Solo wasn't a shitty movie. Solo actually is one of the better offerings from the new Star Wars regime. It just was cursed with being placed in the worst possible spot. And it's funny, even the fact checkers on the Disney side of things were like, oh well, no, it was just that it was Star Wars fatigue and people. No, it just. I'm sorry, but the people that are going to go watch a movie like Star Wars, they're going to go watch a movie like Avengers Infinity War, people that are going to go watch Deadpool in a theater are the same people that are going to go watch a movie like Solo. And what happened was, to me, even the reviews were pretty good. Mm-hmm. The fan reviews were great.
They were great.
And I think people were just out of money. They just couldn't go. Like they were just like, they got to that movie and was like, wow, Jesus Christ. Like they were $200 into their month in theater excursions, and it was like, not going to happen.
It's a lot of dolo.
A lot of dolo.
Dolo.
Yeah. Hand dolo.
Yeah.
So but to your point, to the Scorsese point, though, I 100% agree. There is a hypocrisy for him totally lambasting these films with his commentary, but yet at the same time making a movie that is for Netflix, that is dedicated to a streaming service, that is absolutely 100% for those that care about these sort of things, subverting the cinema industry.
Sure.
You can't have it both ways. You can't say that Marvel films are not cinema and they're the reason why these.
What about Spielberg last year saying Netflix films aren't cinema and shouldn't be put out, shouldn't be in contention for any awards?
Yeah,
they should not be eligible for the Oscars.
But this is okay. So
what if The Irishman is the best movie that you've ever seen in your life? The most amazing film you've ever seen in your life. You sit and you weep for like hours. It's like 10 Titanics in a row. And you're just like, that's so good.
So am I going to see Joe Pesci floating on a door at the end of the movie, and De Niro's in the water?
He is a wet bandit. He was a wet bandit. You never know.
So I think I don't actually agree. I feel like all these directors that are weighing in. It was like Francis Ford Coppola's comments. Like he just basically. Like, he just tore everything apart. He was like, these are not movies. But it's like, what was the last good movie that Ford Coppola made?
Said that?
Yeah. Well, he doubled down.
Oh, I haven't seen that. See, Francis Ford Coppola, his great quote is that, like, one of his most famous quotes is that he hopes that some 12-year-old girl in Iowa finds a handycam and becomes the next Mozart. So what the hell is he talking about?
Well, he doubled down on Scorsese's comments and was like, no, yeah, he's like 100% Marvel movies, just blah, blah, blah. Like he went.
How much of this is old man yells at cloud?
But so this is the thing, and this is the point I was working towards. It's a generational thing. I think these guys are of a generation that art meant something, cinema really meant something, that honing your craft and telling your story meant something. They're also the part of the whole rogue generation of filmmakers. Yeah. These were groundbreaking directors that, like in the 70s, like Apocalypse Now.
Yeah, all the American Zoetrope guys that broke the mold, but they said the same thing about those guys.
Yeah,
their peers were the old men,
Yeah,
yelling at the cloud.
So they're the old now. I agree. They're the old men yelling at the cloud now. And what's hilarious about it is, like, even for Spielberg to say that, like, about Netflix, like Spielberg, even by virtue of his own documentary, is a polarizing director. There are people that think that he makes artistic movies that are unappreciated, sure. And there are people that think that he is an overrated maker of fluff. I don't agree with him being an overrated maker of fluff. I don't agree with that, because he's made some tremendous movies. I think Jaws was a tremendous movie.
Jaws is.
Schindler's List. Like, I'm sorry, you can't. Like, that's an accomplishment in filmmaking.
Sure.
So it's hypocritical for someone like him and for Coppola and Scorsese Like, these are all guys that were friends with George Lucas in the 70s when they were the rogue directors that were coming in and changing the game. But yet George Lucas he's only made popcorn flicks. Like, we're not going to pretend like Star Wars is compelling cinema in terms of its script quality and
No.
It's not. It's not that. But it doesn't need to be that, because not everything needs to be that. The same way that Marvel movies don't need to be that. So why these guys are weighing in and trying to tear it down and be like old men yelling at cloud, I don't think I could have described it any better. Because they are saying stuff about these films that's like, okay, so it's not your thing. Fair enough. Okay, Marty. Okay, Francis.
Frankie.
Frankie. Oh, Frankie. Frankie doesn't like Marvel movies. Okay.
So, where do you draw the line? Like, okay, they'll, like I said earlier, that I don't like when these films get nominated for the big awards, because the Oscars switched from what was it, like 5 or 6 nominations to
I believe
10.
now there's 38 movies
that
eligible for Best Picture.
And they just sort of like,
give or take.
make a big push, and they're like, no, I mean, the cinematic gravitas isn't there for it. But is it there for the Lord of the Rings trilogy?
Totally. Okay,
Is it there for Titanic? I mean, that was all CGI. There was a lot of CGI in there. Like, is it about the use of CGI? And spectacle and green screen? Is there a quota for that you have to stay under to be an Oscar winner?
This is a great question, and I'll use one of your examples. So, Wonder Woman.
Sure.
Everybody was like, who directed it? What was her name? Exactly. I apologize to the audience. I don't remember her
Patty?
name. Patty something.
Okay.
Everyone was like, she should be nominated for Best Director.
Right.
For her accomplishment with that movie.
No.
But to me, doing so completely took away from the accomplishments of Catherine Bigelow,
Yes.
who directed Hurt Locker and did Zero Dark 30,
Yeah.
who made actually truly compelling cinema. And in a genre that some would argue, not myself, but some would argue was kind of a male-dominated genre, but yet made these movies that were really good movies.
Okay.
That built tension, had phenomenal... the scripting was great, the performances were great, like they were really good cinema. So all of a sudden we have Wonder Woman come out and people are like, well, oh, she's got to be...
Isn't it Patty Jenkins?
Patty Jenkins. Yes.
All right.
Yeah. Patty Jenkins,
Sure.
Wonder Woman. Noted. So Patty Jenkins makes Wonder Woman and people are like, well, she should be nominated for Best Director.
No.
Why? Patty, your movie was
Good.
It was an entertaining movie. Well, I'm not saying I wasn't entertained by your movie.
Very good.
But in the realm of great cinema,
No.
sorry.
No.
It just wasn't.
No.
It just wasn't. And it takes away like I look at, female directors over however many years, and I look at the works that they've created, and I'm sorry, but Wonder Woman is not on par with those works. I mean, like, even like Nora Ephron, may she rest in peace.
Ant-Man and the Wasp.
I don't think that was directed by a woman.
It doesn't matter. It should have been Best Picture.
Why? Why though?
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Like 100%. Yeah. Totally.
Ant-Man. Without the Wasp. Best Picture.
Ooh, that'll get a sound bite.
Like, I'm sorry. It was good. They were entertaining. They were not The Pianist.
But this is the thing. They came out in The Pianist. They came out in an era where nobody would negatively critique or speak out against them.
It wasn't Moonlight. It wasn't La La Land.
La La Land was great.
La La Land, La La Land.
La 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 Land.
The French,
La 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 La
the
La
French film, La La Land.
La La Land.
La Land. Awesome. So
Okay,
there you go.
So La La Land. There's a great movie to talk about. I thought that movie was outstanding.
Do we have to?
And I'm not a musical guy. Like, it's not like I'm like, oh, what's the next
You're
musical that's
surprising
coming
the
out?
shit out of me right now.
You know what? I do that to Pitt.
What?
What? Mind blown.
The world as I know it, the ether is folding in on itself. You?
Yeah, as it turns out, not my go-to films.
You think you know someone.
Yep.
You think you know someone.
Not a lover of musicals,
Okay.
as it turns out. However, La La Land, loved that movie.
Yeah,
loved it.
Okay, why?
I loved that it knew what it was, and let me rephrase. I love that the director knew what he wanted to do.
Right.
He wanted something that harkened back to that yesteryear of Hollywood.
Right. Where white people save jazz?
Wait a minute, didn't you say you liked the movie?
No, I actually love it. I do.
Oh no, but please. Yeah, well, there's nothing I could say at this point. All I can say, you know what, I was entertained by it, even though it was a white rescue stereotype.
Hey girl, mind if I save jazz? Hey girl, I'm here to save jazz.
Well, there it is, I guess.
No, the direction of it was awesome. It was great.
the direction of, like, the order
The
of direction.
the actual direction of the movie and the
So, like, the direction is
the
in the
saving-
director, or just the direction that it headed?
and the saving of the jazz.
Oh.
Oh. Yeah,
All right,
it was
fair
great.
enough.
But did Scorsese like it?
No, he probably no, he would have probably talked about how it just, was.
So here's the thing: if you're in a costume and you're a knight, or or if there's a dragon, or Gollum, Best Picture, A-OK in Scorsese's book, I would take it. But if there's a tesseract, or a glove with stones on it, or somebody that has a particular set of skills like shrinking or growing or throwing a huge shield, then no dice. Do people just hate the universe? Do they hate the Marvel universe?
I think that people hate.
Because this stuff is coming from guys that were like all on board for Indiana Jones, which started out as like cereals, not the kind you eat.
Totally.
And Buck Rogers, and like these guys grew up on comics. They had a lot of comic influence.
Well, and they actually, several of them talk about how a lot of those serials and a lot of those, like the comics, the books, the TV serials,
Flash Gordon, all that, yeah,
were influences on what they chose to do
Sure.
cinematically. And I think you nailed it on the head. I actually can't even argue with the point. They are old men yelling at cloud. Because they absolutely 100% were on board with these ideas back in the day. Martin Scorsese, this isn't even ancient history. Martin Scorsese was a producer on the new movie that just came out, The Joker. So here he is talking about how these movies are not technically cinema. Now, he bowed out of The Joker for whatever reason. It was never really discussed. But it doesn't change the fact that within the last, I guess it would be, year and a half, 2 years, he signed on to be a producer with that movie. So he can say these things.
All the way to the bank.
Yeah, that. So I'm kind of like, and Francis Ford Coppola, the man is responsible for some of the greatest cinema ever made.
Jack.
Jack. 100%. But, so he comes out of the woodwork
Fran
to...
Drescher was in that.
Well, if Fran Drescher was in it, you know it's good.
She was the love interest.
Who was the...
Robin Williams. It was his big.
That was his big... See, I didn't see that movie. Not gonna lie. Can't watch them all, I guess. Didn't watch that one. Sorry, I missed Fran. Sorry, Fran. Not to impugn your work. But Francis Ford Coppola...
The other Fran.
The other Fran. What has he done lately? Like, what movie has he
did?
done?
Apocalypse Now. That's all he needed to do. He's done.
Yeah, and when was that?
19.
Like, was electricity a thing at that time?
Probably.
Ish. No, I no. All jokes aside, I don't disagree. He did
Apocalypse Now.
And he did Godfather and like.
Yeah, it doesn't even matter. That's just extra.
Yeah, but he also did Godfather 3.
Yeah, and Jack.
Jack. Yeah, so he's suddenly chiming. Like, honestly, like, viewers, name one movie he's made in the last 10 years.
Coppola doesn't direct; he makes wine.
Well, apparently he's been sipping his own whiskey. I don't know.
Wine.
Yeah, I don't know. All I'm saying is, so suddenly he comes out of the woodwork to give his opinion on the whole matter.
Yeah.
I don't get it. Like, the thing is, why do you have to hate what other people like just to prove your point? So what they liked isn't what you like, then don't like it. But
yeah, but
why do you have to make me feel like an asshole because I do?
Okay, I'm sorry.
Especially when I'm still watching Artur films.
You liked Jack. I get it.
I never even saw Jack.
And you're not
what the hell is Jack?
And you're not a musical guy. But La La Land.
But
give
La
me
La
some
La 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 La.
La loved it.
La La loved it.
Yeah. Okay, so you're not a musical guy. West Side Story? No. Spielberg's directing a brand new version of that. Guess who's gonna go see it?
Not this guy.
Yeah. That will not be busting of the block.
There will be no blockbusting.
Although it's a great musical.
I am almost ashamed to say it, but I am actually West Side Story illiterate. I know very little about it. I didn't. All the plays I did in high school, that was not one that I did. And I've never seen the movie.
You know a play that was my favorite to do in high school?
I don't.
Give you a hint. White People Save Jazz.
Oh, you did La La Land?
I did La La Land in high school. Yeah,
this is amazing.
Yeah, it's awesome. You know what my favorite line in it was that I had?
What?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm just playing the piano. Hey, girl. Mind if I save jazz? We got anything else? They don't know what the hell they're doing with this Star Wars thing. That's my old man yelling at Cloud.
What do you mean they don't know what they're doing?
They don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing. They don't. They don't know what they're doing. The next one's, we'll get into it another time, but they don't know what they're doing. They painted themselves into a corner. They had no idea where they were going. You know who does know where they're going? Marvel. Because they sit down and they plot comic books. Like, they go, okay, let's have this writer's retreat. What's happening in the next 5 years?
Don't touch my coaster.
Okay. Let's talk about what we're going to do in the next 5 years. What's happening with this book, this book, this book, this book, and, like, Punisher.
Okay, but couldn't you argue that literally the whole Marvel thing is because the source material is already written?
Not all of it. Not.
But that's what they've been working.
And like.
Oh, come on! The whole Marvel, like the Avengers and Infinity War.
Okay, so they've had.
Do you want me to go dig out the Infinity War comic books because I have them?
Yeah.
Endgame was.
Yeah, they're all different though. That's just like a basic smattering. Like it's not like Jim Starlin is the in Infinity War God is sitting. He's in the counseling scene with one of the Russo brothers, and he's like, what did you talk about or something? They have the source guy sitting right there who did that whole series, but they didn't do it. He didn't sit there and go, oh, you're changing that or you're changing. There wasn't a counseling session with Captain America. What the hell am I doing in this chair? I didn't write this.
Yeah, but okay, so they've got the So they've got the source material. Okay, here's my thing, because this comes up all the time. People are like, oh, well, why can't Star Wars figure itself out the way that... Why can't Disney figure out Star Wars the way that they figured out Marvel? Here's my 2-point answer to that.
Kevin Feige.
Yeah, okay. They got the right man at the helm. Fair enough. But
Ron Howard.
look, yeah, they got Hobie. Who? You can't go wrong with Hobie. Or Opie, not Hobie. Who's Hobie? Anyone?
You can't go wrong
Opie,
with
little Opie, not Hobie. Hobie?
You can't go wrong with Hobie.
Felt right. I don't know. It felt right. Here's the problem. It's two things. The first is
Ron.
Shut up, Gerry. The first problem is you have, like, whether you want to admit it or not,
I do.
on the Marvel side of things, they've had all the source material and they've had a roadmap that they at least can use to follow, not follow, but they at least have a sense of like, okay, here's what we can use to tell this story. We can follow it to a T, which doesn't work cinematically sometimes or not, but they've had that. And the way it happened, the way they acquired the properties, and they were like, okay, well, let's do Iron Man and see how that goes. And okay, well then let's do this one and see how that goes. And they were like, okay, and that's where they started to map it out. And Kevin Feige was on board, and that probably one of the most underrated cinematic geniuses in terms of the ability to navigate those waters in a way that made sense and have created cinematic success. Okay? So that's the Marvel side of things. Here's the problem with Star Wars. You have an entity that was created in the 70s that was a standalone story created by one individual, not a team of writers working on multiple entities.
Who wrote and directed Empire?
Okay, come on.
And then wait a minute. Did that same crew write and direct Jedi?
George. Okay, Bill. Okay, George Lucas was the center point of all that, and it's a singular entity, not an intertwined entity with all these different
galaxies and moons.
Marvel, you cannot compare Star Wars and the writing of Star Wars and the execution of Star Wars movies to Marvel, because Marvel has had, like, Sony.
Watch this.
Please watch this, because this is going to be
this is
great. This is
going
going to be fun.
Carry on.
You can't compare they're not the same.
Right.
Like, when you look at the creative team behind the entire Marvel franchise.
Sure.
Okay, now see, you're not listening to what I'm saying.
No.
You're waiting for me to shut the fuck up so you can say your piece about this.
That's true. Okay,
So
I am listening.
So the thing is,
can I finish?
Can I finish?
Can I clarify a point that you're having?
You can't clarify my point. You can clarify any point of yours that you want, but no.
Here's what I
no,
think.
You can't
Here's what I'm
mine.
hearing. I'm hearing from you that because Marvel had all of this source information.
Oh, but I was taking you on a journey. I didn't get to my end point.
What's your end point? What's your end game?
Yeah, simultaneous groan. My point is, Disney bought Star Wars, and they bought it from a guy that, as it turned out, didn't even necessarily have a sense of what the fans actually loved about the thing that he had created. Okay? So the prequels, and this is coming from a Star Wars fan, were a bomb. They were a bomb. When I watched them originally, I was a big fan. I was like, yeah, more Star Wars. And I came out of the theater, each one like, yeah, it's not quite what I envisioned, but the beauty of youth, I was like, I was in my 20s, and I was like, it's kind of cool. But in reality, and here's how recent memory this is, literally, watch them again with my wife, Jen, who's upstairs, who's probably cursing us out right now, because we're yelling at each other. Watched them again this last weekend, and I didn't realize just how bad those movies actually truly are cinematically. They're not good movies. That's on film, coming from a Star Wars fan. They're not good. They are dry. The scripting, the acting, the story could have been great, but they tried to sell Phantom Menace as being a kids movie, but yet it's loaded with trade embargoes and Senate meetings. Because what 6-year-old doesn't fucking love that shit? So Disney bought the entity from a guy who had lost his way.
Sure.
Didn't even have a grasp on why people love the damn thing in the first place. And they're like, well, where do we go? So what do? They make a movie that is an absolute pandering to the original audience because it's a remake, even though they deny it, but it's a remake of the original story, right down to an orphan on a desert planet who has force abilities, blah, blah, blah. Okay?
So where's the difference in that and Marvel? You're saying Marvel had all of this great source material that they've sprung forth on. So I have, and that they already had the roadmap, and they already had all this huge lexicon of great stuff to milk from, right?
Totally. They had
let me ask you one question.
They had an incredible head start at a bare minimum.
Perfect head start, right? Let me ask you a couple questions. You ready?
I'm ready.
This is the point. Who's Thrawn?
Thrawn?
Yeah. Who's Mara Jade?
Okay, so the extended universe. Yeah. I'm with you.
So you're telling me I walked downstairs and noticed there is a Star Wars graphic novel sitting on your table upstairs.
Yes.
What graphic novel is it?
It was
Empire Strikes Back?
No.
Is it Return of the Jedi?
No.
What? Well, then it must be the original Star Wars.
It was a graphic novel that I was gifted for my birthday a few weeks ago.
And what's it called?
It's just called Star Wars. No, I'm not kidding.
Really?
It's a graphic novel of the first issues that Marvel made of Star Wars.
Okay, so
when Disney, sorry. Okay, kids, sidebar. Disney bought Marvel. Disney also bought Lucasfilm. And in doing so, they created the ability to make all the Star Wars comic books. I was given a Star Wars graphic novel in hardcover of the first issues of the first series that Disney released while owning the Marvel version, basically owning the Marvel version of the Star Wars entity. So, and it was given. I didn't buy it. Although I have to admit, I did read it. It's good.
Okay, so my point being is, do we not have like thousands of Star Wars stories, just like Marvel stories, that were written and published by like IDW, Dark Horse Comics,
totally
Marvel,
100%. That I can't argue.
That's even before we get into the novels. Because I talked to some of my Star Wars friends, and they're
it's the Timothy
"Oh
Zahn
yeah,
series.
did you not read Shattered Horizon and Cloak of the Empire?" And I'm like, "No."
Totally.
Are you not watching Rebels? Are you not watching Clone Wars? Are you not watching?
Okay, well, Clone Wars and Rebels are Disney entities, so that is their canon. However, the Timothy Zahn series that was first released, which was the first actual canonized sequel to Return of the Jedi.
Okay.
Phenomenal books. Did you read them?
No.
Okay. That's where Thrawn was introduced. So
wait a minute. This follows directly after Jedi.
Yeah.
Like directly after.
Well, I don't remember. I'd have to go
nearby.
It was nearby, Gerry.
So what you're saying is you've got a jumping off point and a jumping on point
100%.
that are nearby.
Honestly, I will absolutely agree with you on this. I don't fully understand why Disney didn't utilize the extended universe that was written more. that is not actually, that's not a bad point. I agree with that, because there was some great material out there, and there was a lot of Star Wars fans that actually, and myself included, that actually really enjoyed what George Lucas kind of said, you know what, just, do your thing, because at the time, he had no intention of making more movies, therefore, he didn't really care that much about what was written or where it went, other than he just wanted to make sure it stayed kind of true to Star Wars lore and everything else. And it started with the I think it's Timothy Zahn is the author. His trilogy of books that he wrote were, it was like Heir to the Empire, Dark Force Rising, and I can't remember what the third book was.
La La Land.
La La Land. Weekend
La La Lando.
La La Lando. Weekend at Bernie's 3. The Search for Curly's Gold.
That's right. That's accurate.
He didn't really pull in the reins too much on those books that were written. And there's a ton of great material. The Dark Force comics, that's actually, like, I've got a stack of them literally on the other side of that wall. And they're phenomenal. Like, they were darker. The Dark Empire series, and I tell you right now, you heard it here first, I guarantee there are elements of the Dark Empire. I don't know why I said it that way. I am not Captain Kirk, but there are elements of the Dark Empire series, that 6-piece series, that are going to end up in the Rise of Skywalker movie. Guaranteed.
I think there's going to be pieces of everything that end up in. It's going to be the Muppet Show. At least the opening to the Muppet Show.
You know what the best part about that thing, that joke was?
The end.
The end.
I think that's it.
All
right. They don't know what they're doing as far as this week. Either do we. So that's it. I'm Gerry. That's Tim.
Toodaloo, folks.
This is our Empire.
This is the end. Or.
Are you ready?
Oh, I'm ready. Sorry. I had to hit the record button.